Hey guys, thank you so much for stopping by the garden today. We're outside because it is a beautiful day here in Central Florida. We live in Zone 9B, and if you're new to my channel, I just want to welcome you and say hello. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy to have you guys here. Everybody, especially the ones that have been here with me since the beginning. I appreciate all your support. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you'd like to stay updated on more videos to come from the garden. I have a lot of uploads every week that I put on just about my experiences and things that I do around here, things that I've learned with growing that have worked for me and things that haven't worked for me, problems that go on, nutrients, soil I use, just different techniques in growing that have helped me during the years. Now, when I first started growing, it was pretty difficult and I didn't know about air plants. Today we're going to go over air plants. So what I want to do is just talk about, we did a video yesterday on watering them and basically trimming off the dead tips on these. So today we're just going to go over basic maintenance on these because there is a lot of information to cover on these. I just want to go over like watering tips, sunlight, regular care for them, how moist they should be, what you should do after you water them, which is hang them upside down and let them dry out. We have a nice watering jug here. So what I want to start off by saying is indirect but bright light for most air plants, especially Tillandsia. The type of air plants you see here are mostly Tillandsias. I'm sorry you guys can't get a good look at all of them here, but I'll make sure I post a picture down below for you in that little square right there on the left hand of the screen so you guys can see what they look like. Now we have a lot of air plants here and they're mostly all Tillandsias. So one way I like to take care of them is just leaving them out here on the table outside in the elements because they do really well with taking in nutrients from their leaves. They don't really grow, they grow roots, but they don't need the roots to survive. What happens is they suck in all the nutrients and the air, the nutrients from the air, in through their leaves. So these basically grow from their leaves and they suck in nutrients through there. You really don't need the roots to grow. Now you might want to leave the roots on if you are connecting them onto something, if you want to let the roots twine around like a seashell and then go ahead and hang the seashell by a string or something, make it look like an octopus. There are many designs like this. You can showcase them on a little piece of driftwood, on a piece of metal. The only thing I will say is no copper for these because it kind of interacts with the leaves in a way that it's going to kill your plants. Now any dead foliage at the bottom, which I should have showed you that, but you can see here we have a little dead leaf here, and what I did was just I pulled really gently down. We have another one here, see? Just want to pull down gently and kind of go to the side and it will rip off and that'll be good to go. You don't want to go too high, so if you have like a tip here that's half brown, you can either cut that brown tip off or I just leave it on there until the next watering, and then usually it's totally dead and I can take it off. I don't like to take a lot of foliage off of these because they do grow by their foliage and they look a lot better when they're nice and full. Now, being that they do grow in indirect but bright light, a lot of varieties here can take like a few hours of morning sun. So that means like 1 or 2 hours of that morning sun. As soon as it comes up, it's not that strong in the morning, they can hit this plant direct for about 1 to 2 hours. Now that's only some of our varieties, and I only found that out because what happens is when the weather changes from winter to spring, if you didn't know, the sun changes with it. So the sun drops lower in the winter and higher in the summer. So these were getting sunlight when it was changing into the winter time. It was coming in my lanai at the last house a lot stronger than it is here and a lot more. So this was getting basically 2 hours to 3 hours of that morning sun along with a lot of the other Tillandsias that I have. And what happened is they were doing great. They started taking off and I was like, wow, what is the difference? And that was the difference. They were getting a little more sun. Now that being said, they are very sensitive to the sunlight. So, increasing slowly and just like an hour a day, increase it an hour today, let's say, into direct sun in the morning, then tomorrow we can put it in 2 hours of direct sun and see what it does from there for the next couple of weeks. After that, you can then go ahead and just see how they're doing, see if you need to change it back. So some won't survive in that sunlight and some will. They do perfectly well and grow really, really good in indirect but bright light. You can see that I have all different types here. We have this one growing a little baby and it's in indirect but bright light, no direct sun, and you can see it's growing absolutely fine. This is a little Zea graphica. It's actually a big Zea graphica. You can see the size of my hand compared to this plant. She's growing really well and she has really thick foliage on the bottom here, so I don't soak her too long like my other plants. Usually I soak them underneath the water about once a week, I'd say, to twice a week in the summertime. It depends. Sometimes in the wintertime I have to soak a little more than the summer. It all depends because the summer's humid. So if you have a really humid climates like we do here in Florida, you might not have to soak them so much. Little spraying in between the soakings, 2-hour soakings once a week, that would be fine and you'd be good to go. But you don't want to soak these too long because all these leaves right here, if the water gets caught up in these leaves and stays in there too long, what can happen is they can rot. These plants can rot, even though they love water and love humidity and love to get watered. For those 2 hours, they can get overwatered. So now we're gonna go to overwatering. If you guys have any questions on that sunlight, just let me know. I know it can be difficult to understand in the beginning, but if you're not sure, just give them bright and direct light and then, you know, experiment with a few. If you have any extra, give them an hour or so in the morning and see how they do, see if they thrive. If not, then switch them back in the bright but indirect light. Now for soaking, they usually turn a really silver color when they need a soaking. So this guy's really not too silver, you can see, but he needs water. So we're going to soak him upside down. Now, in between the waterings, you do want to let them kind of dry out because they will rot, these plants. If they stay wet, constant wet for a long time, like for a week straight, they can rot out. So keeping them moist at all times is no good. You definitely want to let them dry out a little bit before you go ahead and soak them again. And I just give them a dunk like that, shake them off upside down, let them sit upside down with the foliage kind of, let me put this down. With the foliage, you want to spread the foliage out and lay them down on a little towel for about, I'd say 15 minutes, 20 minutes until all that water seeps out of the middle. You don't want to let any water sit in this middle rosette because what can happen is it can rot this plant out from the middle and down. You know, instead of rotting from the leaves up being it's constant wet, it will rot from the middle down, and that's no good. So they rot a lot easier that way when you leave that water in the middle. Leaving them upside down is pretty vital to the watering when you're watering. And usually during the week, instead of spraying them, I just give them a quick soak like this, jiggle them all around, make sure all their foliage is soaked, and then give them a good shake and let them dry out. Now, if I was soaking these, if it was, you know, that one time a week or twice a week in the winter here, where I had to soak them for twice a week for 2 hours at a time, then I just leave them in here, just let them soak, kind of wiggle them around, get that water all around them, and let them soak for a good 2 hours. Take them out, shake them upside down, and let them sit for that 15-20 minutes. Let them dry out, then you can put them back in their terrarium. Now by terrarium, I mean you can put them in a dish. They can be displayed any which way. They don't need roots to grow. They don't need a soil medium to grow. So you can basically just leave them in a dish like this to showcase with some seashells, or you can put them in a little stand-up container like this for the nice and big ones. These are really big, and these are another type here. There are so many types of air plants, you guys, and that's it. That's all I really have to say for these. They're that easy to grow, and I fertilize with my Grow, which is a 795, and it's an all-purpose nutrients. It's a water-soluble nutrient system, and I water all my air plants once a month, and that's for the 2 hours at a time. I do soak them for 2 hours in with that fertilizer, and then the next day I just kind of dunk them in the water to rinse them off. And as far as water, I do use rainwater as much as I can. Rainwater is best for these because it's a natural thing for them and they will grow really well. This I've been using nothing but rainwater on, and it hasn't been getting any direct sun. And look, it's got flowers growing out of the middle. So we got two nice big flowers growing right out of the center there, and I'm so excited. So this one we're not going to soak because anything that's flowering you don't want to soak under the water. We're just going to go ahead and soak it up until that first set of leaves up on this plant. So let me see if I can get up close for you guys. You can see we're just going to soak it up until here. We're going to make sure all these leaves are nice and soaked too, so if you have to squirt them, you can squirt them, and then give them a little mist, shake it upside down. Try not to soak that flower, especially once it opens, because what happens is that water, well, these flowers are so sensitive and they only last a day or two anyway, so enjoy the flower when it blooms. Don't soak it because it can damage it and then you won't be able to enjoy that flower. We're going to try to pollinate that too once we get that bloom to open. These are very unique looking and I can't wait to show you guys that. But as far as the water, I do have well water here. So the well water is good and it's fine, but if it's mixed with salt and water softener, if you have a water softener system like we do here, that's no good. I thought that was going to be okay, but the salt built up in there, I learned, is just no good for these air plants and will burn them and eventually kill them. They might thrive for a little while and they might do okay for a little while, maybe not thrive, they might do okay, but after like a couple of weeks of that salt buildup on that water softener system that you're giving them, it can burn the leaves. So just try not to give them anything that has a water softener in it, or any type of chemicals in the water will be really harmful to these, like chlorine, chloramine, the iron, any metals that are in your water. So any faucet water, if you're on city water, I recommend you letting your water sit out. Just fill up your container, let it sit out, or a little watering jug for about 24 to 48 hours before you go ahead and use the water, because that's going to go ahead and evaporate out of the top of this. So you don't want to put a lid on it. All those chemicals will start to evaporate out of the top. Well, most of them anyway. This way, when you are watering with them, it's a little bit safer. As far as spring water, I don't use spring water or distilled. I'm sure you can use spring because it's kind of natural, but I just use rainwater, or I let my water from the faucet sit out for 24 hours. I actually bypassed my well. I found a faucet that bypasses the well over there. So it comes out of the well, but it doesn't go through the water softener. So I hooked up the hose there, so at least I can use the well water without the water softener in it. And you can buy a bypass for that. And that's what I'm actually using if I don't have rainwater. I do collect rainwater out in buckets, and that stays good for a couple of weeks at least to a month if it's in a cool, dry place. If you guys have any questions at all, I know this is a lot of information to take in. When I first started growing these, I was killing them off the bat one by one, and I didn't know why, but these are the certain steps I've taken to keep them healthy. And if you guys need any help at all, I'm always here for you, and I'd love to help you in any way I can. Stick with me. I'm trying to catch up on the videos as best as I can, as quick as I can. We have so much going on here, and I love growing with you guys. Please comment below if you need any help. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.